Welcome back to the 10-minute round. This week, we have an absolutely stacked card, UFC 314. Look, I get it. The past few weeks, it's like we've been in an abusive relationship with the UFC. You know, these past few cards, it's like telling us we don't look pretty, kind of slapping us around a little bit. But this week, the UFC is like, hey, babe, looking pretty good. You want to go get some ice cream? That is what this card is. This card is incredible. This is one that we have to tune into. The matchups are great. Look at the lineup. Look at the lineup. We have the 145-pound belt on the line, the belt that Ilia Topuria vacated. We got former champion Alexander Volkanovski facing Diego Lopes. I could not be more excited for this matchup. We've got so many good ones, man. The co-main event, Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler. We have Yair Rodriguez welcoming Patricio Pitbull, former Bellator champion Patricio Pitbull, to the UFC. We have Bryce Mitchell versus Jean Silva, the battle of good versus evil. I can't wait. Let's get right into this card. All right, so I feel like going into this main event, the storyline is Alexander Volkanovski washed? I don't think that he is. You know, he's only 36 years old. He's dropped 2 fights in a row, yes, but look at who he lost to. He lost to Islam Makhachev, the pound-for-pound GOAT, essentially, and he lost to Ilia Topuria, who's just steamrolled everybody that has been put in front of him. The guy's super talented. I'm very high on Ilia, so those losses are not like you can't be ashamed about those losses. Those are 2 of the best fighters in the world, and now we're out here saying that Alexander Volkanovski don't got it anymore. That is absurd. But he is facing Diego Lopes this weekend. Diego Lopes, who has been absolutely on fire. You know, he made his debut against Evloev, lost a super close decision. Since then, he's beat everyone that they have put in front of him. His last win was against Brian Ortega. The dude has skyrocketed up the 145-pound rankings. He deserves this title shot. But is he ready to face somebody at the caliber of Alexander Volkanovski? Really, what makes this fight interesting to me is the level of danger that Diego Lopes brings into the cage. Of his 26 wins, 22 of them are by finish. The kid has power in his hands. He's got great submissions. He thrives in chaos. Like when the fight is getting chaotic, for some reason, that is where he tends to shine. That is where he tends to catch people. And this is how he needs the fight to go this way with Volkanovski. He needs it to be chaotic. He needs to hurt Volk. I do not think that he can win a decision against Alexander Volkanovski, because that is Volk's game. Volk is going to go in there. He moves well. You know, he's got good lateral movement. He has these freakishly long arms for his size. He's like 5'6", but he's only like got a 1-inch reach disadvantage against Diego Lopes, who's like 5 inches taller than him. Like, it's wild, the range on this guy. So what Volk is going to do is he's going to move around. He's going to try to strike at range against Diego Lopes, kind of keep him at the end of his punches. When the fight gets close, he's got good clinch work. He's got good knees. He's got good grappling. Like, Volk is a very, very good fighter, and I think that if this fight goes to decision, it's going to be Alexander Volkanovski all day. And don't get me wrong, I am super tempted to pick Alexander Volkanovski in this one. I don't think he's washed. Like I said, I think he's still got it. I think he can still fight at a level, you know, with a guy like Diego Lopes. But there is like one little thing that is kind of stopping me from just outright picking him. Maybe a few things. For one, you know, Diego's just got this crazy momentum. You know, it feels like it's his time right now. But I think one thing that Diego doesn't get a lot of credit for is he's not a bad counterpuncher, man. He has like this looping right hand that he kind of throws over people's jabs. He was doing it against Brian Ortega a lot. Is that every time Brian Ortega would throw a jab out there, Diego would just kind of loop this right hand over it and counter him. And with the power that he hits with, I kind of have a feeling that he can hurt Volkanovski, but then he's got to put Volk away. I think one of the issues with the Brian Ortega fight is that he hurt Brian Ortega very early. He kind of expended a lot of energy trying to get Brian out of there, and afterwards he kind of had this like crash where the fight just slowed down quite a bit. He still won all 3 rounds. He did hurt Brian Ortega again in the later rounds, but that is a concern of mine, is like that kind of that dump that he had against Brian Ortega. However, gun to my head, who do I think wins, man? I really want to go with Alexander Volkanovski. I really, really think that he can do this by decision. But I have to say that I don't know. I see a world where Diego is going to catch him with a counter, or he's going to hurt him. You know, Diego just hits so hard, and it's 5 rounds. And I know for the most part, Volk has been able to avoid that in the past. And, you know, besides like Ilya Topuria, obviously, but Ilya's boxing is just on another level. I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to go with Diego Lopes in this one, I think. I'm going to do it. It could be one of these fights where Volk just kind of like comes in and gets us with like the old, like the y'all must have forgot kind of thing. I could see that. I could see it, but I don't know, man. The momentum is on Diego's side. The power just he's just deadly. He's deadly. And it's weird to say that, like, I think he's going to go out there and finish Volk. Even though Volk has been finished his last 2 fights, like I said, the level of competition was like, those are 2 of the best guys in the world. And I just don't know if Diego is in that category yet. You know, I can't say that he is just yet. But we're going to find out on this one. We're going to find out really soon whether he is or he isn't. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna do this for a lot of these fights, by the way, because a lot of these fights to me could go either way. But I'm gonna go with Diego Lopes. I think I'm gonna back Blink 182 here, and I'm gonna stick with him. The co-main event in this one has Michael Chandler no longer waiting on the return of his long lost love, Conor McGregor. He will now be facing Paddy Pimblett. I am pretty stoked about this fight. I'm curious to see how this one's gonna go. You know, Paddy gets a lot of shit from fans. He you know, it's one of those things where we're doing the hype doesn't match like the skill level, but I do think that Paddy's very good. I was very impressed by him in that Bobby Green fight and his approach to the Bobby Green fight. And you have to understand something about Paddy. Paddy has not always fought to his strengths in the UFC. He is engaged in these striking battles with these guys when that's not his bread and butter. Like, he is just a high level grappler. You saw it as soon as Bobby Green shot on him. He had him asleep within 30 seconds. That is what Paddy Pimblett does. I think Michael Chandler is ranked way higher than he should be in the UFC. He's 2-4. He's ranked number 7. One of those wins is against the ghost of Tony Ferguson. Like, I don't see it with Michael Chandler. Like, you kind of know what you're going to get. However, I will say that his bread and butter is like, he's an explosive dude. He explodes into you. He throws, a nice overhand right. It's got a lot of power. And for a guy who is striking, where he stands very upright, like Paddy Pimblett is kind of a prime target for that right hand. Let's be real. He is. But I think that Paddy Pimblett and his team know that. I think they know what Michael Chandler is going to bring to the table. I think that they are going to prepare for it. I like those leg kicks that he used against Bobby Green. Bobby Green did not like them. Michael Chandler does not take leg kicks well. He stands very heavy on his lead foot. I think Paddy is going to utilize those leg kicks early on. I think he's going to force grappling exchanges, and I think it's going to look a lot like what Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler this last time, where Oliveira was just kind of manhandling him. I think that Paddy Pimblett can do the same. I think that he is going to grapple fuck Michael Chandler, and if he doesn't finish him by submission, he's gonna win by decision. But I think Paddy Pimblett is going to win this fight. Part of it seems like maybe I'm just hating on Michael Chandler. He's a tough dude. He's you can't break the guy. It's hard to break the guy, but like, just being a really good punching bag does not impress me. We also have Bryce Mitchell fighting Jean Silva on this card. I've been talking up the Fighting Nerds gym on here for a while. I'm super high on these Fighting Nerd guys. Jean Silva is a part of that. However, he is facing a guy who has God and Hitler on his side. Look, for all the dumb shit that Bryce Mitchell tends to say, I do think he presents an interesting stylistic matchup for a guy like Jean Silva. He is a very good grappler. He's a very determined grappler. He's going to constantly shoot on you. He's going to constantly try to stay close and just work you, and it wears you out. And it's the type of fight that a guy like Jean Silva, a guy who is obviously very, very talented, if you want to reach that top level in your weight class, this is the kind of matchup that you have to go out there and you have to win. We saw it back in the day with Ilya Topuria. He fought Bryce Mitchell. He was able to overcome this stylistic nightmare. Can Jean Silva do the same? I can see Bryce Mitchell grinding this one out. I think it's like, I don't think he's like super outmatched in this one. However, just the level that this gym, that these guys have been fighting at, I think Jean Silva is very talented. I think he's very, very dangerous. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but he fought Charles Jourdain, and Charles Jourdain was taking him down. And that is why I kind of think that Bryce Mitchell has a good chance. Like, Charles Jourdain is not like a wrestler, and he was kind of small for the weight class as well. But Charles Jourdain was able to take Bryce Mitchell down. However, there was a point where Charles Jourdain is trying to get him with a single leg, and Jean Silva just frames on him and hits him with this uppercut that just puts him out. So he's absolutely dangerous. I think they're going to prepare for Bryce Mitchell's grappling game. I don't think that I think this is the toughest fight that Jean Silva has had so far in the UFC, for sure. Like, Bryce Mitchell is good at what he does. However, I cannot go against picking Jean Silva. Like, until somebody goes out there and is able to beat one of these fighting nerd guys, you gotta just keep going with them. We also have the human Beyblade himself on this card, Yair Rodriguez. He's introducing Patricio Pitbull to the UFC. This is a long time coming for Patricio. He's been a very, very talented dude outside of the UFC. Is it a little too late, though? He is 37 years old now, been in Bellator for ages. He's always wanted to come to the UFC. He's a dangerous dude, knockout power, very strong, very explosive. Can he beat a guy like Yair? The problem with this one is the only thing more unpredictable than like the way that Yair Rodriguez fights in the cage is like trying to predict Yair Rodriguez fights. Like, the dude, you never know what you're going to get with a dude. Like, I imagine he's going to throw a lot of kicks. He's going to try to keep Pitbull at range. He's got, this whole matchup is going to be Pitbull trying to get inside on Yair to do some damage. Can Yair keep him off of him, I guess, is essentially what the challenge is going to be here. It's a very tough one to call stylistically, because even though I feel like the level of competition for Pitbull in Bellator kind of dropped off in more recent times. He's dropped a few losses. I think he was like in that hybrid Ryzen and Bellator card. He lost there. He has a loss to AJ McKee back in the day. It's hard to really gauge where he is at talent-wise for me, and especially against a dude as unpredictable as Yair. Like, this is a really, really hard one to pick. But gun to my head, I think I have to go with Yair. I think it's up to Pitbull to kind of adapt to what Yair does, which is not easy, man. It's not an easy thing to do. And I think that Yair is just, I don't know if you've seen him lately, but the dude looks absolutely shredded. He's in shape for this one. He's obviously motivated. Like, I think Yair is going to be trouble in this one. Look, these episodes just keep getting longer and longer, but there's just so many good fights to talk about on this card. Like, the undercard is fantastic. We have Dominic Reyes fighting for like the pay-per-view opener. He's kind of getting back on track after having a rough go where he dropped 4 in a row. He's fighting Nikita Krylov. I think Dominic Reyes is the underdog. I think he can win this one. I really do. I think he can give Nikita Krylov some trouble on the feet. We have Dan Ige versus the Slender Man, Sean Woodson, in this one. Sean Woodson is like, the way he's built, it seems so unnatural. Like, he's just so tall and so long, and he's got nice hands. Like, the dude can box. This is a tough fight for Dan Ige, man. Dan Ige is going to have to get in there and try to knock Sean Woodson out, because what Sean Woodson does is he's just going to stand back with his long ass arms and he's just going to pick you apart. He's going to box you up. I like Sean Woodson in that one. I think stylistically he's a problem for a lot of people. We've got Virna Jandiroba fighting Yan Xiaonan. Dude, those are like two and three in women's strawweight, and it's on the undercard. Like, that's a good fight. That's a good contender fight. We'll see who wins that one. I honestly don't even have a real prediction for that one. I just think it's going to go by decision. You can put your money on that. Chase Hooper is continuing his Legend Killer tour. He is facing Jim Miller, and he is a very, very heavy favorite. Chase Hooper, don't get me wrong, he looks fantastic. I think Jim Miller's still dangerous, man. I think Jim Miller has a very interesting skill set where I don't think that Chase Hooper should be such a heavy favorite against Jim Miller. I also said that when he fought, what's his name? The Geico caveman. I'm blanking on his fucking name right now. Clay Guida. There we go. So Chase Hooper being such a heavy favorite, I don't love it. I think that Jim Miller, it's within Jim Miller's skill set to give Chase Hooper trouble, but we'll see how it goes. You know, we'll find out real soon. I wouldn't mind throwing a few bucks down on Jim Miller, though. Darren Elkins is on this one. The Damage with this hideous tattoo. He's fighting Julian Erosa. That's another one where Darren Elkins goes in as underdog to, like, in almost all of his fights and just figures out a way to win. It's going to be interesting to watch because Julian Erosa is a talented kid. He's a very talented kid. So we'll see if he can get past somebody like Darren Elkins. There's just, this card is just from top to bottom, just interesting fights. I'm really excited about this one. I took the day off so I can, watch this one at my niece's birthday party. Sorry, sweetheart, but, as soon as the fights start, you know what's going to happen. Uncle's going to pull up with his Modelos and his chips and whatever, and just, you'll find me sitting on the couch in the living room. So I love you. I'm sorry. Happy birthday. But, we got to watch this one. It's we got to do it for the videos, we got to do it is what it is. So I hope, I know this one probably ran long again. It's just, I get it. I get excited. I want to talk about these things. I wish I could talk more about all those other fights that I mentioned because I'm excited about those too. So, I will see you on the other side of this card. We'll see how it goes down. That's it. That's it for this one. Thank you. Peace.